Going live. Well, I do like going live. First of all, let me just adjust the lighting here. There, that's a little bit better. Much brighter than the other bulb, but as long as it works. Okay. Hello. This stream, it's going to be a little bit like a previous stream that was called Famous Cemeteries. This one, this group, and that I didn't start, and this is the second group that I'm kind of promoting for a friend of mine, Tammy Clark, and that lives up north. And this group is Tombstones, Cemeteries, and Skeletons, or something like that. Hey, Tinker, and then I thought I'll do a stream on this as well, and it's one of my more it's one of the groups that I have a big interest in, like on the paranormal and the historical end of it. Really cool stuff, and as always, I'll leave a link to the group that this represents. I'll leave a link to the group in the description below. That way, if you want to check out the group and even join it, and that you're more than welcome. Okay, it's a little over 7,000 members, and it's really cool. You know, all kinds of photos and stories and stuff like that. And this is cemeteries and places all over the world. Like, it doesn't matter where it is, and that. But from the research that I've done, a lot of the cemeteries that I am most fascinated in are the ones in the UK, but there are some in the United States as well that I really like, and that. But anyhow, to me, it always seems that when it comes to places like cemeteries and graveyards, places like that, it may seem kind of a morbid place to have a fascination in, but you got to kind of look beyond that, and at the historical part of the location, why they made churchyards the way they did. Because don't forget, the way that they run cemeteries nowadays is so different from the way they ran cemeteries and churches and graveyards, a couple hundred years ago, and that has I think it was in U.S. and Canada that a lot of locations and that were private. That's the reason why a lot of these unknown cemeteries, the ones that are basically hidden and forgotten, were always private ones. They're always very small ones, where the town cemetery or the city cemeteries, and that who are owned and ran by the town or the city, they're the ones that are so much bigger. And of course, they got a council and they got a committee and all that kind of stuff to help run the cemetery or the graveyard and that. But when it comes to the private ones, well, it was almost like a couple of families getting together to do the layout, for their relatives and best friends and what have you. But there are some locations that the cemeteries, like their average size, for a large town or a small city, and that there are some that, because there were so many interments, that they actually literally had to put like one layer and then another layer and then another layer, and that. I think there's a couple of locations, one in the UK and one in the United States, I think, that there are some locations that they have as many as either 5 or 7 layers because all the stones got so crammed together that they actually ran out of space. So instead of, disrupting the graves and such, what they do is they take the original layer and fill it in with dirt, put in another layer, fill in the dirt, like I said, over a century or half a century, what have you, and that they'd actually layer them up, and that, and yeah, it's always so fascinating how they ran cemeteries back in the day as opposed to the way they do it nowadays, you know. And my grandfather was caretaker for a cemetery. Well, God bless him, and because it's a job that's not only underappreciated, but people actually think it's a kind of a morbid kind of profession. But really, look at it this way: a caretaker for a cemetery basically is a person that is um, taking care of other people's loved ones, you know, to make sure that their burial, burial spot is, is as, you know, presentable as possible, like constantly making it, look good, because, if you let a gravestone or a site um, go into disrepair, not caring, weeds grow up, the grass gets too high, and eventually, especially if it's a cremation plot, the dirt eventually closes in, and pretty soon you can't even read the stone. To me, that's always bothered me because both my parents are cremations, and I'm always kind of worried as to if the full stone is visible or not, and that where the cemetery my parents are in, I think they do try their best to keep the area manicured, and that and and that. So by taking good care of their gravesite and showing the love and respect as if they're in the physical, and that. And I spent a lot of I spent a lot of my time there, and was so peaceful. Yeah, actually, I agree. Whenever last time I went to my parents' gravesite, there wasn't really that much activity at all, like very, very little, and I felt the same, and I felt that they were happy with the way that we did their funeral and their burial and stuff. So yeah, it was always so cool. And that yet in the same cemetery, in the older section, different story, and that a lot of emotions, a lot of thoughts, all kinds of crazy stuff that went on. When I was a kid, I didn't understand any of that stuff, and that. But like I said, and that some grave sites, because they get so old, they get in disrepair, and that. And one thing I've noticed in different cemeteries, especially the really old ones, and that is, I found there's been a lot of vandalism, especially when it comes to the extra old stones. Like the ones that dated back to the late 1700s, early 1800s, and that they're kicked over, they were vandalized, smashed up. And I thought, where is the friggin' respect to the people that are interred there? Like, if people show that individual respect in life, well, that's sure not showing a whole lot of respect, in spirit. And I'm sure that those people are quite upset and quite disgusted that their final marker is, vandalized. To me, that's sick. And it's not just in this part of the world that this happens. Vandalism's friggin' everywhere. I've even seen it over in the UK, and where some cemeteries, some stones that are extra old are literally snapped in half. Like, where's the respect? And but yeah, when it comes to the actual research part of the cemeteries and like do you notice that in some areas, I don't know if it's a timeline thing. That in some cemeteries they call them graveyards, other people call them cemeteries. You know, They have different names, but basically it's the same. It's the same thing. It's just the wording that they change. I guess it's a culture thing. And other people call them tombstones, other people call them headstones, and that. And yet the really what do you call them? The really wealthy people or the people who are very high standing or important people had vaults or crypts, and that's the stuff the paranormal investigators love, you know. And there's actually one in Jamaica, I think it's Jamaica. It's called the Chase Family Vault. Now, this location, and that it was rumored that the coffins inside the vaults, people heard them being moved around. This went on for decades, and and I think there was 5 or 6 different coffins inside. And one time they'd open it up, and the coffins were just thrown everywhere. They rearranged them, stacked them up like they were originally, seal off the vault, come back 10 years later, and the coffins were thrown around again. And that went on for a good 20 years, 30 years. Finally, they couldn't stop those stupid um, caskets being thrown around. So what they ended up doing was they removed them from the vaults and buried them individually. And guess what? The poltergeist activity actually slowed down, and so I figured that there was a lot amongst the spirit people. There was a lot of resentment, a lot of hatred, and they're trying to get a message out, but they couldn't. So I think there's just a lot of hostility and that kind of energy going on, and that became famous all over the world. The Chase family vaults, the moving coffins. That I thought was cool. That was one of the first areas of research I ever did, and But yeah, just a different kind of graveyards and cemeteries that's found, you know, all over the world. Like I said, it doesn't matter where it is, you know, and uh, some cemeteries that I really enjoy researching are the ones that are the oldest. Doesn't necessarily have to be the biggest or smallest, but the oldest in that. And the ones that I did come across, one location, the stones actually went back to the I think it was either the late early 1600s, and the cemetery wasn't really that big. It was pretty small, but it was old, and I think this was in England. And so anyhow, I think that's all I really wanted to chat about. Was this? If you want to find out more about this, group, like I said, I'll leave a link in the description below when it comes to this group. If you want to join it, please do so. If you got stories, if you got photos, if you got videos, that's even better. And please share. Okay. So, like I said, my next stream, I don't know what it's going to be, day or two, something like that. Haven't found a topic yet, but yeah, I guess doing some research into that too. So, anyway, people, thanks so much for joining the stream. I really enjoyed it. Thanks, Tinker, again for joining, and like I said, if you have a big fascination with this kind of topic as I do, that's what turned me into a real history buff is, uh, researching these locations, finding out more about how they did burials, why they did it that way, why they called stones the way they did, why they called locations the way they did, what kind of people were they, were they middle class, high elite people, royalty, it's fascinating just to find out about the people, not so much the location, because that's where the real good stories are, and that. And and yet in some locations, so this is basically over in England, to my knowledge, and that is a lot of high-standing people, especially the people that founded churches and cathedrals and stuff. That a lot of these people were actually interred not beside the church building, but under it. I guess that's just for dedication as well as for security. And that a lot of people and that were interred underneath. And this is going back to, I believe, the 1500s or even before that. And that are people very high standing. Either they're buried under the church or they've got memorial plaques in the church. And I thought, that's pretty cool. I like that. I like that idea a lot. It shows dedication towards the individual. And that. So, anyway, people, hate to love you and leave you, but gotta get going. So, like I said, if you like this stream, please, hit the thumbs up. And that. If you didn't, let me know what you didn't like, and I'll see if I can improve somehow. Okay. And also, please hit the subscribe button. Hit the notification every time I go live. You'll get a notification on that. Okay. And like I said, I'll leave all the information about this group in the description below. And I highly encourage you to join. I think you'll really find it fascinating. And that's so. Okay. So once again, thanks so much for your time. And please stay safe. Okay. Please abide by the Ministry of Health rules, and then stay healthy and stay safe. Okay. Because I want to see all my family stay healthy. Okay. So anyway, as I say at the end of every stream, and once again, and then love and light to all. Okay. Toodaloo.